Redditors that worked with a dating company, Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, etc. What's the most insane user stat or behind the scenes fact you found out about? My ex-BF worked for the Yahoo Italy dating site back in the early-ish 2000s. His job was to pretend to be a woman and message male customers just as their accounts were going to expire. This would encourage them to pay to renew their subscriptions. Once they renewed, he would ghost them. He only lasted for a few months due to how unethical it was. Guys swipe right on 47% of profiles. Women only swipe right on 12%. I knew some guys would swipe right more than women. Wasn't prepared for how little women swipe right. Edit. Here's some more. #SEARCHING for serious or casual relationships for men vs women. 61% of men want something serious, while 38% want something casual. 87% of women want something serious, while only 13% want something casual. It's worth noting on that last one that it's partially because of a difference in how men and women would describe themselves. If they are not sure, women would rather say something serious if they are not sure to see how something goes but happy for it to turn casual if they are not feeling it. While men would prefer to say something casual and then happy for it to turn serious if they like them. This is why we've given in and added a not sure option in our big update next week. #FEEDBACK on chat/users. We are unique in that we only let you chat to 3 users at a time. So you have to end a chat to talk to someone new. When you end a chat you have to give private feedback. Here's some of the feedback people choose. You can pick more than one. 34% ghosted/didn't say anything. 12% great chat. 11% polite and respectful. 11% not enough in common. 8% no chemistry. 8% hard to talk to. 2% rude/inappropriate. #WHY people ghost. We call ourselves the anti-ghosting app because we notify you if someone replaces your chat with someone new. Since you can only talk to 3 at a time. Doesn't stop rejection, but at least you're not left wondering and waiting. We did some research with users to find out why people ghost on dating apps. They could choose more than one answer. 43% avoid the awkwardness of saying I wasn't interested. 37% they said/did something I didn't like. 36% was too busy and then it was too late. 32% couldn't be bothered to keep replying. 28% I forgot to reply. 25% couldn't think of a reply. 23% too many other people to respond to. 22% I've never ghosted anyone. 6% other. Source: I'm the founder of a dating app. Edit 2. Thanks for all the awards. Support and kind words. Seriously means a lot. Have tried to answer as many questions as I can and might even do a proper AMA when we launch our big update next week if there's interest. I found this out when I mentioned that I already hit my limit on right swipes by 11 AM. The female friends I was with at the time looked confused, so I asked what was up. They had no idea there was a limit on right swipes, and they used it about as much as me. Why is there a limit? So you can't just right swipe everyone and settle for whatever you get back. Because for some people I can imagine that being a genuine game plan. Curious as I've never used a dating app. I married before they were a thing. I used to work at Bumble. Although this was about 4 to 5 years ago, globally, about 90% of the users are men. So there is a huge male to female disparity, although it's not that bad on a per country basis for some countries. The most depressing stat though was the histogram of word count in messages. Something like 91% of opening messages were just one word hey, and 85% of conversations were just one exchange long hey, no reply ever. Looking at human digital mating habits played out in data science form was really depressing. Update: yikes. This thread really exploded. Some people have asked me a lot of the same questions, so I'm providing answers here. 1. When I worked there, we were not allowed to read the content of chats. Only gather metadata about them, word count, number of exchanges. But we could not build models which analyze the content of chats. This chat was about food. This one was about holidays. This one was sexual. This was due to stringent GDPR draft rules/TOS/privacy rules at the time. And Bumble took user privacy very seriously. so chats were never read or analyzed for content, not even by automated models. However, this was 4 to 5 years ago, and they may have mended their toss since then to allow it, or they might be analyzing content for non-GDPR countries, USA. Therefore, as others have pointed out, we don't know for sure that the word used most often was actually hey. It could have been hello or howdy. In the office, we always assumed it was hey due to our own experiences on the app. But we did know with certainty that 91% of first messages used only a single word. So we guessed it was hey. 2. The countries which had better male-female ratios, which I can remember, were the Nordic ones. Sweden and Norway were close to 50/50, and for a time, one of them even had more women on the app than men. Not sure how it is now. 3. The GDPR rules were released in 2016. Even earlier draft rules for some industries such as banking/finance and telecoms, but were not actually enforced until 2018. This grace period of 2 years was so that firms could implement all of the massive legal and technical protocols for GDPR. And many compliance/tech departments in London did nothing but a mad dash sprint for 2 to 3 years straight to get GDPR compliant before the 2018 deadline. As such, Bumble was already GDPR compliant, at least in terms of user chats. Don't know about other aspects. Well before 2018, as I said, they took user privacy seriously. Even before GDPR, we weren't allowed to read chat messages due to a combination of user privacy toss, specific to Bumble, and GDPR draft rules. I just wrote GDPR as a catch-all term for all of the various privacy rules in effect then, including toss. But yes, I agree. The rules were not enforced yet. I apologize that I wasn't specific. I wrote my reply quickly this morning not thinking it would explode like this, and so just blurted out GDPR without getting pedantic about which rules in which years. Apologies for any confusion. 4. All these numbers are pulled from my memory of what I saw 4 to 5 years ago, and thus are not canon law or academic paper worthy. Update 2. Thank you most kindly for all of the awards, kind strangers. I very much appreciate it. I ran operations for an online dating company, notably not affiliated with Match. From database analytics I can tell you a few things. Men initiate contact around 80% of the time in straight matchmaking. And if you are a woman looking to date other women and you simply initiate contact with another woman, you have a good chance of success simply because it's very common for women to match, but then neither initiates contact. I think we were able to determine that it takes on average about 3 dates before 6 happens. I don't recall how we worked that out. I'm not a data analyst, but presumably it was some keyword based algorithm looking at chat messages. We got so many requests for information from the police that we had an informal system with them to save them from wasting time getting warrants for information about people who we didn't have data on. They would ask about a particular name/email/whatever other identifier and we would just say yes we have data about them or no we don't. And if we did they'd then go get the warrant to get a copy of it. The other thing I can tell you from our analytics that really shouldn't be at all surprising is to get some decent profile photos. Go get your talented friend or just hire a photographer to take some really nicely lit well composed photos of yourself and watch your match rate soar. My old boss was the financial controller of a big dating site. He kept on seeing these big invoices for modeling agencies and initially thought it was because of the big parties they used to host. When he asked about it, it turned out it was just content for the fake profiles they created to lure in users. Most dating sites and apps are owned by one company, the Match Group. They have a near monopoly. I think Bumble is one of the few not owned by them. A couple met on the dating app I worked on. Unfortunately, the man passed away and the lady returned to the app where they met for remembrance. One day, a bug in the system made some profile likes to be sent again after months and she received one from her deceased boyfriend. Her bug report was heartbreaking. This was years ago now, but I used to work with a guy who had been an engineer for Match.com. He said 99% of the profiles were inactive, and that 80% of the active profiles were men. He didn't provide numbers, but also said there was a huge disparity between the average number of messages sent to women versus those sent to men. According to him, all told the site was mostly men reaching out to dead profiles and never getting responses. As I said, however, this was years ago, so it's entirely possible that they've cleaned the site up since then. I would love to know how openly cynical the algorithm really is. My feed on Hinge shows absolutely no one I'm interested in. And suddenly, the roses feature pops up. I'm interested in all the people in the roses section. But, oh, it's 4 to buy 1 rose, which is no guarantee of a match, much less a date. They want to keep you using the app and spending money for as long as possible, and their slogan, designed to be deleted, is such BS it's comical. And you can't turn to other apps because they're all owned by the same corporation. Not been working, but a friend wrote her master thesis about the different criteria in online dating and real life. Almost half, 43%, the female participants who were in a relationship told they'd never have swiped right on their current partner. Other interesting results were that over 60% of men they wrote with on apps and agreed to go on a date would have no chance if they asked in real life. Edit, since many asked about the thesis, I'll ask her if she can share it here, but be prepared. It's in German. As to the second point, I don't know exactly how she worded the question in the survey, but she was referring to clubs and the like. I went speed dating, IRL, in 2012. Only time I ever went. And I was super nervous. We got 5 minutes with every partner. And at the end of the night you have a card and you tick the box of the women you're interested in. And they tick the men on their own cards. The organizers email you the next day with anyone you matched with. I ticked 3 potentials. And the next day I got 1 match in my email. I met up with her again and we went out on a couple of dates after that. On the second date she confessed, I didn't tick you. My friend did. She was there with her best friend. The friend liked me and ticked me on her own card. Then ticked me on this girl's card too because she thought it would be a good idea. That's how we matched. Anyway, it all worked out great. We got married in 2014 and now have 2 daughters. She never would have ticked me if her friend wasn't there. I'm not her type at all. But it goes to show that relationships are weird. And that statistic about wives wouldn't have swiped on their husbands makes total sense to me. The reason I found my partner, we have a child together, etc., is because she handed her phone to a friend who accidentally swiped up while taking the phone and super liked me. I found mine because I was talking to a mate who was new to online dating and didn't know how it worked. So I showed him on Just Chat at the time. I picked any random woman and started chatting to her. We've been together 14 years now. Still very happy. I used to work at a dating site in the UK. I was on the tech side, but most of the staff was a group of young women who manually approved images and text changes to profiles. There was about 10 to 15 of them, and the turnover rate was about 1 a week. The work was just so mind-numbing. About 10 times a day they'd shout that they'd got another one, which basically meant one of the hundreds of thousands of men on the site has differently thought I've thought of something nobody else has tried. I'll upload a picture of my cock, at which point they'd all laugh at it, cancel the profile upload, and go back to reading about people's choice of pets or whatever else they thought was interesting. I never worked at OkCupid, but years ago I reported a few profiles and then they made me a mod. There were more fake or scam profiles than demipics. We think some profiles were reported just because someone didn't like how they acted. But once you start image searching, you would typically find that those profiles are fake or belong to real people that are definitely not on a dating site. There were a bunch of accurate and proven catfish reports and a lot of cute pets. Pictures have to be of you, not your dog, and we would comment for the other mod's cute dog but breaks rules. Also Google the image of the dog and sometimes find out that it's someone else's dog. Okay, so I didn't work with a dating company per se, but I helped software engineers optimize their profiles. Men get very few matches. Regardless of how good their profile is, women get a lot of matches, but most of those matches are useless. Edit, this has gotten a lot of attention, so I wanted to share my basic advice. 1. Don't try to appeal mildly to everyone. Appeal strongly to a small subset of people. Emphasize who you are. 2. Show don't tell. What makes a person want to date you? Will you impress them with your volunteer work? Will you bring them fun places? Will you make them laugh? 3. Get good photos. If you have to, get a friend with a good camera to take photos of you multiple times over a day with several changes of clothes. 4. Be brutally honest. Do you need to go to the dentist because your teeth are grey? Go. Do you need to get a haircut? Go somewhere that charges $50 a haircut and tell them to do what they want. If male. Do your clothes fit? Ask a fashionable friend. Remember, people are judging you on your appearance as much as you are judging them. They can't see you're kind of funny or interesting. They can see if you're well groomed and making an effort. Any more advice? And I charge $50 an hour. I worked for Match for a couple years. This is probably widely known, but women frequently lie about their age and weight and men lie about their height and salary. Also, it's a big problem that women are inundated with DMs, while most men get none. Finally, an Ask Reddit question I can answer. Throw away because much of this information is not necessarily positive. I worked for a dating app for a few years in a role that was pretty high up where I was privy to almost all of the inner workings of the app. I won't say which one, but I think my experience probably is applicable to other apps as well. 1. We had a murder on our platform. The top of the company got interviewed as witnesses. TBH, there wasn't really anything we did or could have done about it, but it is crazy to think about. 2. One of our members got scammed out of 6 figures, and there was nothing we could do about it either. She was older and lonely, and the person used an attractive picture and kind words to play off of that. If you let them, people will find any way to scam and abuse those who are lonely. Some of our systems for detecting and removing scammers and spammers were far more advanced than our systems for actually creating matches. Also, we found older women were actually the most likely to be scammed. You can make your own conclusions from that. 3. To that point, the algorithms are less sophisticated than you think. They mostly consist of educated guesses, and then trial and error, to see what creates the most engagement. This engagement could be anything from returning to the app, to sending messages. The main goal of the algorithm is always to get you to pay, never to actually ensure you meet somebody in real life, as much as we tried to lie to ourselves that it was. 4. No dating professionals or psychological professionals were ever consulted when we were building our software. Software that basically plays Cupid and changes the courses of people's lives. I kept thinking it would be a good idea to have experts and scientists tell us what determines attraction and sets up a relationship for success. But nobody was ever interested in hearing that. Instead, we made our own choices about how to build this thing. 5. I met hundreds of our users in person, and they were all pretty great people. Many of them were willing to come in and talk because they were struggling with actually finding people and matches on our app. It was sad that our software was failing them. Some of the best, most lovely people really struggled to find a partner. 6. Almost every dating app has a significantly larger percentage of men than women. 7. We toyed with doing a test of blind dating where you couldn't see a user's profile picture until after a match, but that failed really quickly. People truly are superficial. 8. Contrary to many users on this thread, we were a large dating app, and we didn't actually create any fake accounts. We were certainly proud of that. That being said, there are some that do it, and it's relatively obvious when they do. The profile is usually a very attractive person. Somebody who probably has no need for dating apps, and it's usually shown very early in the queue, and the photos tend to be of Instagram influencer level quality. That's the biggest giveaway. I can likely answer questions too provided they are general enough. Many apps seed attractive bots to keep people engaged. The bots will send/respond to a couple of substandard questions. How was your week? What are you looking for? Then ghost. Despite the ghost, the high of matching with a super attractive person that spoke to you is enough to get many people hooked and chasing the dragon. I have a theory, unproven. I work on the comms side, not engineering, that these bots created ghosting culture. The bots just abruptly stopped chatting, which isn't how a normal actual human ends a conversation, but people became so used to it happening to them, they started doing it to others. Learned behavior. This is my favorite bit from my time working at People Media, which is part of Match several years back as a software engineer. One day while deep in the depths of code related to our spam filters, I forget what I was in there for, I stumbled across a curious code statement. It was like, if user id equals xxxxx, return. Which is a very curious thing to see. It basically said that, if the user was a certain person, don't filter them as a spam profile. Immediately I laughed, and was like what in the actual and at $ash is this? Apostrophe. A few veterans explained that there was a guy who sent out messages at such high volume that he would constantly trigger the spam filters, which if you've ever been on a dating site is actually a kind of hard thing to do, and that he'd called up to complain multiple times, and they'd investigated his messaging, and that not only was he messaging this many people, but that he wasn't even copy/pasting his messages. Dude just really liked to reach out to women. Nothing inappropriate. Just a true volume shooter. So eventually someone just broke down and added a backdoor for him specifically to the spam filter. It blew my mind that a single user had their own piece of code specifically to make their profile work in our code. Think millions of users across multiple sites. And this guy specifically had a little piece of it all to his own. That an engineer had taken time to write and kata test and DevOps to deploy. That alone had to easily offset any amount of money he'd paid over the years. But there it was. I forget the source, but I remember hearing one of the sites come out with data that suggested that women were way more picky than men. Men would typically be attracted to about half the women they saw, whereas women were only attracted to about 10% of men. There was also some stuff on certain sexes and ethnicities getting more attention, but I don't want to get too much into that one. Just Google if you are curious. I worked for an online dating site 10 years ago on the id side. Here is a few things I remember. Most of the female users were fake. We would import thousands of fake profiles all the time to prop up the numbers and let the men think there were all of these women on the platform. Customer complaints were fun. The staff in that department were insane because they had seen and heard everything. The only way you got a refund is if you figured out all of the women were fake. We paid a local company to produce some content for the fake women. I had to move the video editors to a separate part of the office to edit videos because it was too distracting. We did a video of the week at our weekly meetings where videos that were complained about were shown to staff as a morale booster. It was pretty funny but sad. We weren't allowed to use the dating site if we were employees. A programmer got fired because he was contacting women directly because he could look them up directly. Oddly enough, I met my girlfriend at the time on an online dating site, but through a competitor. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.